Masamune was a high school student, handsome and well-built. That morning, right after taking a shower, he stood in front of the mirror, admiring his own figure. He couldn't help but praise his own face and body until he realized that his younger sister, Chinatsu, was in his room. Chinatsu teased her brother, saying he was too narcissistic. Masamune denied it, insisting that he wasn't, and instead commented on how Chinatsu was already eating chips so early in the morning. He wondered why Chinatsu kept entering his room without permission, despite his repeated warnings. Chinatsu, on the other hand, was puzzled about why Masamune seemed to ignore their sibling bond ever since they had lived apart for a while. Masamune looked at an old photo of himself and swore that he would never again become the timid, weak boy he once was. Not long after, their mother, Kinyue, entered the room and told them she had already prepared breakfast. Every dish she made was packed with calories because she believed it would spark Masamune's appetite. But Masamune refused to eat. Kinyue immediately looked hurt, thinking that her son must hate her, especially now that they were living under the same roof again. Chinatsu suspected the real reason was because Masamune had already lost a lot of weight compared to before. Without touching the food, Masamune decided to leave for school. Instead, he chose to drink some milk, explaining that he just couldn't eat high-calorie food in the morning. At that time, his personal motto was simple. The most important thing was to be handsome because good-looking people were special. On his way to school, several female students turned their heads to look at him. Passing by the tennis courts, he paused for a moment to watch a few girls practicing. Suddenly, 3 of them started scolding an awkward-looking boy who they thought had been taking pictures of them. The boy nervously insisted that he had only been texting on his phone. One of the tennis players then recognized Masamune as the new transfer student from last week and invited him to join their practice. Masamune politely turned her down. More girls began to gather around, admiring how high his entrance exam scores were and how well he had played in sports. Hearing those compliments, Masamune smiled. He then praised the girls for practicing so early in the morning, which made their faces turn red, and they shouted excitedly after hearing his kind words. That moment made Masamune even more convinced that being handsome was the key to everything, and he felt confident that his plan would work out. When he arrived in front of the school gates, he noticed a crowd forming. Everyone was talking about how Shigeo had confessed his feelings to the so-called cruel princess. Among the students, Shigeo was seen as a cool upperclassman, and many believed that even the cruel princess would eventually accept him. Soon enough, she appeared on the school rooftop. Shigeo's excitement grew, and he called out to her with a nickname, comparing her to a shy Rapunzel. He asked her to give him an answer right there in front of everyone. The cruel princess smiled and purposely used a microphone so everyone could hear. She thanked Shigeo for his confession, but explained that she had asked one of her friends to look into his background. What she discovered shocked the crowd. She revealed that Shigeo had bought a certain comic book and secretly hid it inside one of his school textbooks. The students gasped. She continued by pointing out his habit of staring at girls' arms in ways that didn't seem respectful. On top of that, she even mentioned an online fantasy story Shigeo had written, where the main character just so happened to share his name. Hearing this, many of the female students quickly distanced themselves from him. Shigeo tried to defend himself, saying it was just a misunderstanding. The cruel princess didn't stop there. She even made fun of a mole on his chest, giving him an embarrassing nickname, and boldly wrote that nickname on a long banner for everyone to see. Shigeo's confidence collapsed, leaving him humiliated in front of the entire school. Masamune, watching the whole scene, realized how ruthless the cruel princess could be. Later, Masamune headed to his classroom. He thought that this school was truly intimidating, but he reminded himself that he couldn't be discouraged over something like that. His real challenge had only just begun. Suddenly, near the staircase, he accidentally caught sight of the cruel princess again, and their eyes met. Memories from his childhood came flooding back. He remembered a time when he had confessed his feelings to a girl, only to be rejected harshly and insulted. That painful moment had haunted him in his dreams ever since. Masamune woke up startled in class, surprising his classmates. Tae, the class representative, walked up to him and pointed out how soundly he had been sleeping. Masamune already knew who she was, and Tae was glad to see how quickly he was adapting to the new school. That was when Masamune realized something. Being handsome meant that no one scolded him, even when he fell asleep in class. Not long after, Kojuro brought some food for him. Masamune thanked her warmly. She had bought him bread stuffed with noodles, which looked like it had the same amount of calories as a full lunch. Masamune thought to himself that he would just do more sit-ups later at home. Kojuro admitted that she admired how Masamune stayed humble despite his good grades and athletic skills. She was a popular student herself, and in Masamune's eyes, she seemed like someone destined to be adored. According to Kojuro, there was another student in the school whose grades were just as good as his. Right at that moment, the cruel princess appeared with her attendant. She was looking for a boy named Akio, and turned to Masamune and asked if Akio was in their class. Not long after, Akio raised his hand. The so-called sadistic princess was named Aki. She walked up to him and read aloud the love letter that Akio had sent. The letter said that Akio had fallen in love when he saw Aki looking elegant during gym class. Aki then concluded that Akio must have enjoyed staring at her legs when she wore shorts. Without hesitation, she mocked him by giving him the nickname Pudding Prince and tore the letter to pieces right in front of him. Akio was deeply embarrassed and Aki left the classroom right after. Masamune was puzzled by Aki's behavior. Kojuro explained that Aki was one of the top students in their year and also very beautiful, though her personality was completely different from Masamune's. The rumor going around was that Aki despised boys and anyone who dared to approach her would be given an insulting nickname and rejected instantly. That was why she earned the title of the Sadistic Princess, and her real name was Adagaki Aki. Hearing that name, Masamune was shocked. Aki was the heiress of the Adagaki group. He quickly went outside to confirm it, and sure enough, he recognized her. He never expected to meet her this soon. During the lunch break, Aki sat with a group of girls. They offered her all kinds of snacks, while Masamune observed from a distance. Just as Kojuro had mentioned, Aki was always surrounded by many attendants. She acted kindly towards Sonoka, even fixing the bow on her hair that had gone slightly crooked. According to Kojuro, many girls admired Aki because she was bold and spoke her mind openly. Out of everyone, the one truly close to Aki was Yoshino. Masamune, who had been taking notes about everything related to Aki, asked Kojuro if he knew about Aki's likes, dislikes, or habits. Kojuro admitted that he did not know much, but he had heard that Aki always ate lunch alone. And indeed, after enjoying some snacks, Aki separated from Yoshino to look for a place to eat by herself. Masamune thought Aki was like a queen, surrounded by female students but always alone at lunchtime. This made him even more interested in finding out more about her. Kojuro suggested that Masamune should probably not get involved, but Masamune reassured her not to worry. He then hurried after Aki, but unfortunately, he lost track of her. He searched the library, the classroom halls, and even up in the trees, but Aki was nowhere to be found. Then Masamune spotted Yoshino walking quickly while glancing around cautiously. This made him suspicious. Yoshino checked her surroundings again before entering the sports equipment storage room. Masamune was curious about what she was doing there and decided to follow. Inside the storage room, Eki scolded Yoshino for taking too long to buy her a pork sandwich, saying she'd been kept waiting. Masamune felt relieved he had finally found her. But then, just as he was about to step closer, a spider dropped right in front of his face. Startled, Masamune screamed and ended up barging into the storage room. He quickly smiled and apologized, saying he had wandered into the area by accident. Aki, however, did not believe him so easily. She suspected that he had been deliberately looking for her. Masamune was surprised to see that Aki was having lunch in the sports equipment room, with a meal that looked more suited for a construction worker than a refined princess. Aki told him to leave immediately. Masamune mentioned that there were plenty of sporty girls who ate just as much, but then he was shocked to realize that Aki had not only one lunchbox but also the sandwich Yoshino had just bought. Embarrassed, Aki admitted that she would get too hungry if she only ate a regular portion. She also confessed that she was prone to hypoglycemia, which meant she needed to consume a lot of sugar, and she tried hard to make sure her stomach would not growl during class. Masamune decided to excuse himself, saying he had something else to do. Before he left, Aki asked for his name and warned him not to spread what he had seen. Masamune, however, felt that he had just discovered an important secret. From that day on, Masamune started greeting Aki more often, in the hallways when she was with friends and even in the library. During gym class, Kojuro mentioned that rumors were spreading around the school. People were saying that Masamune had grown close to Aki, and some even bet that the so-called sadistic princess would eventually fall for him. Masamune thought the truth was far from what his classmates imagined. In reality, Aki had become much harsher toward him, and he wondered how such rumors had even started. He believed no one would ever believe that a beautiful girl like Aki actually ate portions big enough for a laborer. One afternoon, Aki glanced out of her classroom window and sent Masamune a note telling him to go back to his cage. Just then, a ball thrown by Kojuro accidentally hit Masamune on the head. His friends worried and suggested that he go to the student infirmary, but Masamune assured them that he was fine. After school ended, Aki's friends said goodbye and left. Aki walked ahead while Yoshino stumbled behind carrying Aki's bag. Aki called out to Yoshino, asking her to buy some food because she felt like she was about to faint. Sonoka, in her usual blunt way, ordered Yoshino to hurry and get the food. Yoshino obeyed and ran down the street toward her shop. At that moment, Aki felt puzzled. She thought her lunch portion had been more than enough, yet it seemed her body was burning calories too quickly. She grew irritated because Yoshino was taking too long to come back. Suddenly, Akio showed up and asked whether Aki was going on a date with Masamune. Clearly upset, Akio yanked Aki's long hair and scolded her for tearing up the letter he gave her, while still accepting Masamune's letter. He even said that being handsome must feel good. Aki told him to let go, but Akio lashed out, saying Aki had always looked down on others. He then pulled a pair of scissors from his pocket and held them up threateningly. Aki could only close her eyes tightly, bracing herself. Luckily, Masamune appeared just in time. He rushed forward, freed Aki's hair, and grabbed the scissors with his hand, which caused his palm to bleed. Masamune had already suspected something like this might happen because of how sharp-tongued Aki could be. When Akio saw the blood dripping, he screamed in fear and ran away. Masamune quickly turned to Aki and asked if she was hurt. Instead, Aki asked him the same question back. Masamune assured her that he was fine and felt relieved that she was safe. However, as soon as he looked at the wound on his hand, the pain hit him all at once, making him want to cry out. Still, in a way, he felt it was worth it. Not only did he know Aki's secret now, but he had also saved her, which meant she might not treat him so harshly anymore, especially since her pride would never allow her to ignore the fact that he had helped her. Masamune suggested that Aki shouldn't always look so stern, saying a girl becomes beautiful when she smiles. Hearing that, Aki's cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Back when he was a child, Masamune had been an overweight boy with a cocky attitude, making him an easy target for his classmates' teasing. At that time, Aki had once been his savior, helping him when others picked on him. But one day, everything changed. When Masamune gave her flowers, she threw them away and told him she had never liked him, cruelly giving him the nickname Pig's Foot. That day left a scar in Masamune's heart, and he swore to get revenge. His plan was to make Aki fall in love with him, reveal his true identity, and then reject her in the most elegant way possible. Masamune proudly called this his dead or love strategy. He even laughed so loudly about it that his mother and little sister overheard. The next morning, Masamune headed to school as usual. Tae greeted him and noticed his hand wrapped in bandages. When she asked what happened, Masamune said it was just an injury from his own carelessness. Tae looked doubtful but didn't press further. Soon after, Masamune ran into Akio, who looked embarrassed and apologized for what happened the day before. Masamune told him not to take it too seriously. Tae, curious about the situation, asked what was really going on, but Masamune simply called it a secret, which made the girls around him squeal with excitement. Later, Kojuro met him at the lockers. When Masamune opened his locker, a letter slipped out. Kojuro teased him, saying it was probably a love letter. But when Masamune unfolded it, the words written inside were just Pig's Foot. A wave of unease hit him. Masamune started to wonder if Aki had already figured out who he really was. After finding a letter in his locker, Masamune became curious about who had actually sent it. He glanced at each girl in his class, which startled them. Masamune wondered if it might have been Aki, but he was not convinced she would do something like that since he believed Aki was the type who preferred to embarrass others in public at the right moment. That made him question who else could possibly know about his past. Seeing Masamune looking unsettled, Kojuro asked what was going on with him, which made Masamune briefly suspect if Kojuro might have been the one. Tat also asked why his face looked so tense, but Masamune brushed it off, saying he was fine. Suddenly, a student shouted about pork feet, which shocked Masamune. However, after listening closely, he realized they were only talking about food. Masamune hated remembering the darker parts of his past. Back then, his classmates had mocked him by giving him the nickname Pig's Feet. At that moment, some of his friends approached, assuming that he was not feeling well. Masamune thought they were kind only because they saw him now as handsome. Yet he feared that if they ever learned about who he used to be, they would turn on him and treat him the same way as before. He was determined not to let that happen. When class began, Masamune struggled to focus on the lesson. His teacher asked him to read the third paragraph, and as he did, tears suddenly rolled down his cheeks. He explained that it was because of the emotional story of the Hike clan in the textbook. His classmates assumed he was just extremely sensitive. Still, Masamune kept reading, silently vowing to uncover the truth about the mysterious letter. During break, Masamune worried that if Aki ever found out about his past, his entire plan for revenge would crumble. He had gone as far as living with his grandfather and even changing his last name. All those 8 years of hard work and determination would go to waste. His stress grew so heavy that he felt stomach pains. Later, he noticed students rushing to buy bread. It was the first time he had seen such chaos. Among them was Yoshino, whose small body was pushed around in the crowd until she fell, landing right in front of Masamune. He quickly helped her up. Yoshino said it felt like fate was always cruel to her, and that she had given up on ever buying bread again. She then handed Masamune a note with her order: 5 croquettes filled with spicy peppers and 4 pork sandwiches. Masamune pushed his way through the crowd and managed to buy everything on her list. Yoshino was deeply moved when he handed them over, saying it felt like something out of a dream. She even compared Masamune to a guardian spirit statue. As Yoshino was about to leave, Masamune followed, suspecting the bread was actually for Aki. Yoshino tried to get away, but Masamune stopped her, and she quickly apologized. Masamune teased her for a moment before reassuring her that he would not cause trouble and would explain everything to Aki himself. The two then went together to meet Aki. Seeing how Yoshino acted, Masamune thought she resembled Cinderella being ordered around by a strict stepmother. He knew how that felt since he had been bullied himself in the past. When they arrived, Aki scolded Yoshino for taking too long and making her starve. Yoshino kept apologizing as Aki called her slow and careless. Yoshino handed over the bread, and Aki immediately ate it with enthusiasm. Watching from the doorway, Masamune could not understand what part of Aki seemed like a princess. Because she ate too quickly, Aki ended up choking, which set Yoshino running off to find a drink. Masamune stepped inside and asked if Aki was alright, which startled her. She looked around for Yoshino, and Masamune explained that Yoshino had gone to buy tea for her. Aki kept eating and asked why Masamune had come. He said he just wanted to check on her. Masamune was surprised to learn that Aki had eaten a large lunch before having bread. Aki then asked about his injury, and Masamune admitted it still hurt a little when showered or changed clothes, even though in reality the pain was much worse. Hearing this, Aki said she had not meant to trouble him, which made Masamune happy. To him, it meant her pride was starting to soften and making his plan progress smoothly. That convinced him she was likely not the one who had sent the letter. Aki apologized, saying what happened the previous day was her mistake. Soon after, Yoshino returned but tripped and fell again, which embarrassed her. Aki quickly covered Masamune's eyes to keep him from looking, but in doing so, she accidentally poked him in the eye. Yoshino offered him the drink she had brought, which touched Masamune. Aki commented that Yoshino always acted humble and overly polite toward everyone, to the point that it became a bad habit. She advised Yoshino not to be so nice to everyone, saying it was natural for her to treat Aki kindly since she worked for her. Masamune then pointed out that Aki had sauce on her nose, which made her flustered. Masamune admitted he was not good at being kind to everyone. He gently touched Aki's cheek and told her it would be better for her to rely on him instead of always depending on Yoshino. After saying that, he left the storage room. Aki was furious at his behavior, while Masamune felt victorious, believing that Aki would eventually give in to him. He had drawn inspiration from a comic book by Chainatsu that he had read earlier. Masamune was convinced that his first step had been a success, and now his focus was to make Aki like him even more. He believed his love-or-nothing strategy was nearing its final stage. At that moment, Aki touched her cheek and called Masamune foolish. After school, Masamune thought it might be time to ask Aki for her phone number. While he was walking, his foot suddenly got caught in a rope trap, and he ended up hanging upside down. It turned out Yoshino had set the trap. She called Masamune by his old nickname and questioned if he was really planning to take revenge on Aki. Masamune was shocked that Yoshino knew the name he had been called when he was little, especially since he remembered none of his childhood friends being small enough to fit that description. That was when Masamune realized Yoshino was actually the one who lived with Aki. Yoshino cut the rope and Masamune fell, landing painfully. Yoshino explained that her ancestors had been serving the Adagaki family for generations, and her family had already been loyal for over 300 years. That meant Yoshino was not Aki's friend in the way Masamune imagined, but rather someone dedicated to serving her. To Masamune, Yoshino's kind and humble personality had seemed like a Cinderella story, but now it became clear that Aki was not a stepmother figure in Yoshino's life. She was the master Yoshino had always been expected to serve. Masamune felt tricked by Yoshino's demeanor and thought his plan for revenge might have to end there. He told her she was free to laugh at him, and he admitted he did not regret showing Aki what it felt like to be treated the way she had treated him. Surprisingly, Yoshino did not take issue with his plan and even offered to help him. The next day, Aki was surrounded by her friends Mary, Hikune, and Sonoka, who followed her almost like attendants. Mary suggested having a tea party after school, but Aki refused since she had cleaning duty that day. Hikune and Sonoka admired her sense of responsibility for not skipping her assigned task. From a distance, Masamune observed them while still questioning Yoshino's intentions. He was not sure whether he could trust her, worried that her offer might be a trap. Besides, since this was his revenge plan against Aki, he felt it was something he needed to see through on his own. Not long after, Tae appeared carrying a stack of papers. She called Masamune's name and reminded him he was heading the wrong way if he wanted to reach the lower classrooms. She even offered to draw him a map so he would not get lost again. Masamune thanked her and carried the stack of papers for her. Todd explained that it was her duty as class representative to help the new student. While they walked, Tae mentioned that the students had been talking about a barbecue party being planned in class. Masamune thought this might be the right chance to practice asking for someone's contact information. Until then, the only number saved in his phone was his mother's, and the idea of asking a girl for her contact felt overwhelming. He lost his nerve and hurried ahead to class instead. Once in the classroom, Masamune asked Kojuro if exchanging contacts with someone meant that person could see the rest of his contact list. Kojuro reassured him that was not the case. Still anxious, Masamune asked again to be sure, and Kojuro was surprised by how serious he was about such a small detail. Relieved that his list would remain private, Masamune started wondering about the perfect moment to ask Aki for her number without making it awkward. A little later, someone from another class announced that one student was missing from the cleaning duty rotation, and they needed a replacement until summer. Tat wanted to volunteer, but could not because she had club activities that day. Since Masamune was not yet part of a club, he offered to take the spot. After school, Masamune joined the cleaning duty. To him, this was a golden opportunity to be near Aki. He greeted her, but she ignored him. Assigned to clean the classroom windows, Masamune grew frustrated over the phone number issue. He worried that if people found out about his embarrassing past nickname, they would see him as a loser and no girl would want to be with him. For a moment, he began to think that making Aki fall for him might be nothing more than an impossible dream. At that moment, Tae approached him to apologize for giving him extra trouble. Masamune brushed it off and told her not to feel guilty, but Tae admitted she often caused others problems. She compared herself to Masamune, who always seemed willing to help others without complaint. Masamune realized this might be his chance, and he suspected Ta had purposely waited until he was alone. Ta commented that the barbecue party would probably be fun, but suggested that going to the movies together might be even better. Masamune's imagination ran away with him. He pictured sitting next to Ta in a theater, their hands brushing against each other, watching a horror film that might lead her to grab his arm in fear, and afterward heading to a cafe to talk about the movie, something that felt very much like a date. The thought made his face turn red, and for a moment, he almost forgot about his original plan. Masamune had not said anything yet, but Ta noticed that he was busy and quickly apologized for asking him out of the blue. After Ta left, Masamune began to wonder if maybe he was becoming popular. He felt genuinely thankful to Ta for boosting his confidence. Suddenly, Aki showed up, saying that she was looking for a new bucket. Masamune felt extremely embarrassed since his face was still showing how happy he had been. Aki again asked if Tae was even part of the committee. Masamune admitted that Tae was only talking with him earlier, but it seemed like Aki had overheard their conversation. She pointed out that Masamune was lucky because he seemed popular. Masamune smiled and suspected that Aki might have sounded a little jealous, since her voice carried a lot of emotion. He said it would be pointless to date someone he did not truly like. Aki asked him which girl he actually wanted. Masamune boldly admitted that he wanted to date her and made it clear that he wanted her to be his girlfriend. Aki smiled and thanked him, which Masamune interpreted as her accepting his feelings. Excited, he asked for her contact and Aki agreed. Masamune could hardly believe it was that easy, and his confidence grew even stronger. However, Aki explained that her phone was being repaired at the moment and promised to give it to him during the next cleaning duty. Masamune then suggested that they meet again at the same time in that classroom. A week later, Aki never showed up at the promised place. Masamune grew bored from waiting until he noticed a letter near the blackboard. When he opened it, he found a clue that led him to check inside the teacher's desk drawer. Inside, he found an origami with another clue pointing to the broom closet. He quickly opened the broom closet and found yet another note leading him to the desk in the back. When he followed the instructions, he found a clue inside a cage. After opening it and being startled by the animals inside, he discovered a final note telling him to return to where it all started. Looking out the window, Masamune saw Aki holding up a rolled piece of paper, revealing that she was rejecting him. She smiled and walked away. Seeing this, Masamune grew upset because he realized Aki had been toying with him. Just then, Yoshino appeared and commented that he was simply unlucky. Yoshino explained that she was actually there to take Aki's place for cleaning duty. Masamune told her she could laugh at him if she wanted, but Yoshino calmly said that he was too naive. If he had trusted her from the start, she could have given him Aki's contact and he might have even been able to go on a date with her. Yoshino then wrote her own contact into Masamune's phone. That day, Ta shared some news with her friends. Based on a teacher's meeting, if even one student in the class got a failing grade, then the entire class would have to attend extra lessons for a full month. Tae's face turned red when she looked at Masamune, and she asked what he thought about it. Masamune said everyone just needed to study harder. Tae was convinced that Masamune would take the test with ease, but Masamune pointed out that the one who was always relaxed about exams was actually Kojuro. Kojuro really didn't seem worried. For her, what mattered most was trying her best. She even admitted that during the last midterm her scores were all single digits, and this time she hoped to at least get double digits. Masamune was shocked to realize how poorly Kojuro had done before. Tae was sure Kojoro would end up in the extra lessons, and she joked about Kojoro looking like she fit a certain type if she lost even more weight. Masamune was caught off guard by Tae's unusual hobby. Tae added that no matter how delicate a guy looked, he was still a guy. Masamune placed his hand on Kojoro's shoulder and suggested she start studying harder right away. Tae got excited, imagining that Masamune and Kojoro might end up spending time together. After school, Masamune invited Kojoro to join him in this self-study room. At first, he wanted to check just how much Kojoro understood, but Kojoro believed it was already too late to start. Masamune wondered how she even managed to get accepted into the school. Kojoro said that was one of the 7 wonders of the school. Masamune then asked what the other 6 were, and to his surprise, the conversation matched something Yoshino and Aki had said before. Unexpectedly, Aki and Yoshino were also in the study room. Masamune greeted them and asked if they were studying for the test as well. Aki explained that she was only helping Yoshino because if the rumor was true, then the whole class could get dragged into extra lessons. Masamune found it strange since Yoshino looked smart, but her grades turned out to be terrible. Kojoro commented that Yoshino was in the same situation as her. Aki was surprised to see Masamune teaching others. She thought it was ironic how confident he seemed when he could still be tricked by simple things. She hoped he would not make the wrong move again. That reminded Masamune of the time Yoshino had offered to help him. Suddenly, Masamune challenged Aki to a bet. Either he and Kojoro or Aki and Yoshino would score higher on the test. If Masamune won, then Aki would have to go on a date with him. Kojoro was stunned by his boldness. Aki wondered what the point of such a bet was, but Masamune teased her, saying she might just be afraid of losing. Aki dismissed that and asked what she would get out of it if she agreed. Masamune promised that if Aki won, she could give him any nickname she wanted and he would stick a tag with that nickname on his back until graduation. That made Aki interested, but she added another condition. If she won, Masamune would also have to buy her lunch until she was satisfied. Masamune agreed and the deal was made. Aki warned him not to regret it if he lost. Kojoro didn't feel confident, but Masamune reassured her. He also thought that if what Yoshino had once said was true, then the competition wasn't really 2 versus 2, it was more like 3 against 1. That night, Aki continued tutoring Yoshino. Yoshino asked if Aki wasn't going to study as well, but Aki replied by asking if Yoshino thought she would lose to Masamune. Yoshino explained that she didn't mean it that way, but according to rumors, Masamune had scored a perfect 100 on the entrance exam. Aki was shocked. Supposedly, he had been the first person to ever achieve that in their school. She hadn't expected it, especially since she thought Masamune was just overly full of himself. Yoshino promised she would do her best so Aki could win the bet. Still, she added that if Aki lost, then Aki would have to read a dating guidebook. Aki was horrified at the idea and quickly insisted that Yoshino take studying seriously. She also promised to help her as much as she could. Meanwhile, Masamune was building up the courage to call Yoshino. It would be the first time he ever called a girl, and he wondered if it was a waste for Yoshino to be the first. But if he didn't call, then he couldn't discuss the bet with her. Just when he was overthinking it, Yoshino actually called him first. Masamune hesitated but eventually picked up. He asked if she could help him with the bet, but Yoshino said it was impossible. She explained that Masamune was free to decide whatever he wanted, but she already had her own plans. She then said something strange about not letting them win easily, but also not defeating them completely. Masamune was confused by how oddly she acted toward him. The next day, Kojoro apologized to Masamune because her score was still in the single digits. She insisted that she had tried her best and said she was ready to accept a nickname as punishment if necessary. Later, Aki and Yoshino approached Masamune. Aki tested him by asking questions from Japanese history, biology, Japanese language, geography, and even English. Masamune was able to answer them smoothly. After that, Aki and Yoshino walked away together. Masamune realized that his skills and Aki's were evenly matched, and if things kept going that way, it could get dangerous. Everything would eventually depend on their individual abilities. That day after school, Masamune continued tutoring Kojoro as usual, to the point where she became exhausted. After school, he even made time to work out, and later that night, while it was raining, he was still teaching Kojoro. Aki and Yoshino happened to see them from outside. Chainatsu was surprised because her older brother, who was usually obsessed with working out, was now so focused on studying. Kinue explained that Masamune had an important test the next day, and she got really excited about preparing him a lunchbox. Hearing that, Masamune requested that the food should be low-calorie, high in protein, and without fat. He thought that if Yoshino wasn't going to help him, and he had to make sure to win the exam on his own. The next morning at school, Masamune asked Kojoro if she thought she could handle the test. Kojoro felt confident that she could, thanks to Masamune's tutoring. That day, only the math exam was left in the afternoon, and Masamune felt certain she would do well, since he had been so patient in teaching her math. That meant their chances of success were high. Kojuro then invited Masamune to grab something to eat since she was hungry after all their hard work. Before that, Masamune went to buy drinks. At the vending machine, he ran into Yoshino. She apologized to him, but Masamune said it was fine because he had started the competition in the first place. It would be strange to rely on her anyway, and the competition actually gave him motivation to study harder. He was very confident he wouldn't lose. Yoshino then handed him a drink, wishing him good luck on the test. Masamune was confused since Yoshino hadn't helped him at all but was now showing support. Yoshino replied that it no longer mattered and walked away, leaving Masamune wondering what she meant. When the exam started, the teacher reminded everyone to stay focused until the very end. Masamune felt relieved because the questions were similar to what he had studied. But then, out of nowhere, his stomach started to hurt badly. He suspected that the coffee Yoshino gave him had been spiked with something, and he grew frustrated. He started thinking that Yoshino and Aki really were his enemies, and he couldn't understand why they would resort to something underhanded. After the test ended, Masamune stormed off to Aki's classroom. He tapped a girl's shoulder, thinking it was Aki, but it turned out to be someone else. He then found out Aki hadn't come to school that day because she had a fever. At that point, he realized what Yoshino actually meant. Masamune would definitely win. Still, he couldn't understand why his stomach had to be involved. Soon after, Chinatsu messaged him and explained that the eggs in their lunch had gone bad, which explained the stomach pain. After school, Masamune had to attend extra classes and Kojuro cheered him on. To his surprise, Aki was also in the same class, which made him happy. He even thought of it as a kind of classroom date. The next day, Masamune prepared to go on an actual date. It turned out Yoshino had called him earlier and encouraged him to go. Masamune was puzzled, since the results of their last challenge had ended in a draw. Yoshino told him he was weak for giving up after a tie. She explained that on Sunday afternoon, Masamune and Aki would meet at the station and Aki was guaranteed to show up. When Sunday came, Masamune went to the station to see if Yoshino was right. Sure enough, Aki showed up, but she was wearing a magical girl costume. People around them were surprised, thinking Aki was doing a cosplay part-time job. Masamune was shocked too because it was the same costume from an anime that aired every Sunday morning. Not long after, a man asked to take a photo with Aki because her costume looked so good, which startled her. Masamune called out to her, and Aki quickly rushed to his side, clearly uncomfortable. The man made a rude comment before leaving, which annoyed Aki, and she gave him a mocking nickname. She then invited Masamune to start walking with her. Masamune asked for an explanation about her outfit, and Aki was surprised he didn't know the so-called dress code for first dates. She explained that to make things less awkward on a first date, both people should wear costumes. Without Aki knowing, Masamune secretly called Yoshino and asked why Aki was acting that way. Yoshino said she had her own plan, and if Masamune trusted her, everything would go smoothly. Since Aki always trusted Yoshino's words and actions because of their long-standing master and servant dynamic, it made things easier to set up without raising suspicion. Masamune wondered why Yoshino was willing to help him so much, but Yoshino quickly ended the call, saying they shouldn't talk for too long or Aki might notice. Before hanging up, she cheered him on and teasingly called him by a silly nickname. Masamune thought that the best move was to just enjoy the opportunity and make the most out of the strange costume date. He went back to Aki and apologized for not really understanding the so-called dress code. Then he asked if that meant Aki was admitting they were on an actual date. Aki was caught off guard and got flustered, blaming the whole situation on Masamune's lack of resolve. Yoshino had apparently convinced her that she needed to support Masamune so he wouldn't fall apart after failing an exam. That was the reason she ended up spending the day with him. Masamune was confused about why Yoshino's story felt so much like a Korean drama. Aki told him that from that moment on, he should try to live more peacefully. She then took him to the movies, and Masamune was surprised when he realized that Aki had rented out the entire theater just for the two of them. Masamune admitted that Aki was still the same as she used to be. When he sat down next to her, Aki asked him to sit farther away instead. They ended up watching a horror movie about zombies that was terrifying. Masamune had forgotten to check what movie they were going to see beforehand, and it turned out to be way too scary, to the point that Aki nearly fainted from fear. Masamune asked if she really hadn't known it was a horror movie, and it turned out Yoshino had been the one who arranged everything. After the movie, Aki's stomach growled from hunger, so the two of them went to a restaurant. Masamune was surprised that she still had such a big appetite after watching something so frightening. As Aki finished each plate, she pushed the empty dishes toward him. Masamune thought that the Aki he had known in the past would have acted much more arrogant, and she probably would have been embarrassed to eat 3 full meals at a restaurant while dressed in a magical Hatapure costume. Out of curiosity, Masamune suddenly asked if her eating habits were something she had always had since childhood. Aki admitted that it might have come from a painful memory in her past. Suddenly, a little girl asked why Aki was wearing such a strange outfit. Masamune was caught off guard, but Aki quickly defended herself, saying her outfit was not strange at all, but actually the costume from Hatapure. She became upset when the girl assumed she was just cosplaying, and the small commotion drew people's attention. Aki insisted that the little girl simply didn't understand and that what she was doing was actually part of a date ritual. Embarrassed, Masamune grabbed her hand and hurriedly pulled her outside. Realizing that everyone had been staring, Aki began to feel that maybe the costume she wore really wasn't normal. The two of them then went to a summer clothing shop. Aki went straight into the fitting room to change out of the costume, and suddenly she screamed loudly. Worried, Masamune rushed toward her. Aki's face turned red when she saw him, and she instinctively hid his face, making him fall down. Back when Masamune was still a chubby boy who often got teased, he had accidentally passed in front of Aki's house and met her. Aki had scolded him harshly, telling him to become stronger. Her words back then had been blunt and merciless. That evening, Masamune woke up with his head resting on Aki's lap. He thought that deep down, her heart was still just as kind as before. When Aki noticed he was awake, she immediately stood up and got ready to leave. Masamune apologized for startling her earlier, but Aki still acted proudly. Later, Masamune called Yoshino to tell her about their date that day. Yoshino explained that her goal in helping him was always for Aki's sake. She believed that Aki needed to do some self-reflection, and that if Masamune ever ended up rejecting her, Yoshino herself would benefit as well. Masamune understood what she meant, though he thought it was a bit much to have been made to sleep on Aki's lap. Yoshino didn't even seem to understand what he was talking about. Masamune then asked her for help again in the future, even calling her teacher as a nickname. At that moment, another one of Aki's maids, Naruno, mentioned that it was rare for Yoshino to talk with anyone besides Aki, and asked if something exciting had happened. Yoshino simply replied that it had been a very exciting day. That day, Masamune was reading a manga that had a touching scene. In it, the male character hugged the female lead in the middle of the rain and said that if the rain was like her tears, then he would not mind getting completely soaked. The scene made Masamune's heart race, and he quickly marked the page in his manga. Not long after, Chinatsu came into Masamune's room because she wanted to borrow a comic. She thought Masamune was still studying. For Masamune, his mission of revenge could also be considered a form of studying. The next morning, Aki left together with Yoshino. She reminded Yoshino not to give her the wrong information again. Yoshino sincerely apologized, and when she saw them from a distance, she felt sure that the revenge plan was really going to work out. After school, Masamune and Aki attended their usual extra classes. That day, they were studying Japanese history. While the teacher explained the lesson, Aki immediately took notes, but Masamune just stared at her instead. Aki noticed and felt uncomfortable, asking him to pay attention to the front. With confidence, Masamune told her that in his eyes there was only Aki. That afternoon, it started raining heavily. Aki had not gone home yet and thought about asking Yoshino to bring her an umbrella. But suddenly, Masamune showed up and offered his umbrella to her. Out of nowhere, he repeated the line from the manga he had read the night before, saying that if the rain was like Aki's tears, then he would not mind being soaked. After handing over the umbrella, Masamune ran off. He was overjoyed, convinced that his strategy of planting seeds of love would succeed. Unfortunately, the next evening, when Yoshino met Masamune outside, she told him that Aki had actually felt disgusted by his actions. Masamune could hardly believe it, but Yoshino explained that Aki had mentioned it 24 times that day. Masamune was upset with Aki, but Yoshino admitted that she also found what he did embarrassing. Masamune defended himself, saying that the scene was from a legendary story and practically a sacred text for girls. Yoshino insisted that was not the point and advised him to keep some distance from Aki. Being overly persistent was not good either, so Masamune needed to control the pace. She suggested that the next time he saw Aki at school, he should act indifferent. When Yoshino got home, Aki immediately scolded her, wondering why she had taken so long at the convenience store. Yoshino apologized, saying a stray cat had chased her, but Aki did not care and just asked for her groceries before returning to her room. Yoshino stood quietly, noticing Masamune's umbrella sitting there. That night, Masamune went back to reading his manga. He realized that the female character eventually became aware of her feelings because the protagonist started acting distant. But on the other hand, he wondered what if Aki ended up hating him if he did the same. He imagined Aki feeling relieved to be free of him. The next day at school, Masamune bumped into Aki in the hallway. Out of habit, he was about to greet her, but suddenly remembered Yoshino's advice. He immediately acted cold and ignored her. When Aki tried to return the umbrella, she was surprised that Masamune had brushed her off and walked away. Back in class, Masamune felt proud that he had finally managed to act indifferent toward her. He thought all of his efforts to build something with Aki might collapse, but since he had already started, he decided to just follow through with it. During another extra class, Aki once again tried to return his umbrella, but Masamune walked past her and chose his seat far away. His classmates were happy that he sat closer to them. Aki noticed how friendly he was with others, but not with her. The following day, Masamune crossed paths with Aki and Yoshino. He believed Aki must have missed him by now, but to his surprise, Aki also acted cold and quickly avoided him. Masamune was shocked and wanted to chase after her, but Yoshino gave him a look that made him stop. He assumed it was her signal that it still was not the right time to approach Aki again. From then on, Aki continued to ignore him whenever they met. Masamune tried to confirm this by following her. In the school restroom, he started wondering what would happen if Aki kept treating him this way. He even questioned if he was just a background character in someone else's story. That afternoon, Masamune was walking alone down the school corridor when Aki suddenly stopped him and called out his name. He was startled by how suddenly she appeared. Aki told him they needed to talk. Normally, when someone wanted to talk to Masamune, they would act shy, but Aki looked like she was annoyed. Masamune suggested they talk another time and tried to walk away, but Aki tossed the umbrella at his head, making him wince. She spread her arms, blocking his way so he could not escape. Aki clearly did not want to let him walk away. When Masamune tried to run past her, she grabbed his tie, pulling him down. Masamune asked her to let go, but Aki refused. She scolded him and called him foolish, demanding to know what he really wanted. Her grip did not loosen, and Masamune felt like the whole situation resembled being cornered by someone tough at school. He realized his fate was nothing like that of a manga protagonist. Aki then asked why he had suddenly started acting distant, explaining that it left her unsure of what to do. Masamune froze when he heard that, especially when he noticed Aki's face turning red. He reminded himself not to be charmed by her flustered expression. Masamune praised Yoshino, calling her a teacher to him, since everything seemed to move according to plan because of her help. He thought maybe it was finally time to strike back. Masamune admitted that he had purposely waited for Aki to say those words. Aki, however, had not expected that he had done it on purpose, and she called him cruel. This left Masamune wondering if his plan was actually working or not. Even though Aki called him cruel, her expression was not one of anger, but more of confusion. Aki asked why Masamune would intentionally do such a thing and what it was that he actually liked about her. The truth was, his reasons were complicated. Aki was beautiful, yet she claimed not to like boys. She had a great figure, yet she was known for her appetite. She was smart, but sometimes slow to notice things. Still, Masamune could not bring himself to say that he simply had no idea how to answer her question. In the end, he decided to say that he liked everything about Aki. Aki did not understand what he meant by that, but Masamune believed a person like her was one of a kind. After saying that, he suddenly ran away. He was puzzled with himself for choosing to flee, especially after finally getting such a reaction out of Aki. He had no idea what to do next, so he went straight to Yoshino to explain the situation. Yoshino called him foolish and admitted she could not believe he had never thought ahead about how to answer such a question. Masamune begged her to stop blaming him and instead help him find a solution. He even asked Yoshino to bring out something that could make his heart calm down. Yoshino reminded him that she was not a robot from the future. Masamune wondered if he should just say it was because Aki was beautiful, but Yoshino quickly stopped him with a sigh. Finally, Masamune decided to use a letter, as Yoshino had once suggested, so that he would not accidentally say the wrong thing. However, when he was about to place the letter in Aki's locker, Aki caught him in the act. She immediately confronted him. In the end, Masamune gave her the letter directly, telling her that all of his feelings were written inside. Aki took the letter, but without even opening it, she crumpled it up and threw it into the trash. At that moment, she declared that she truly hated Masamune. Masamune tried to tell her that she misunderstood, but Aki raised her voice and said she already knew he was selfish. With that, she left. Not long after, Yoshino showed up. Masamune confessed that he was even more confused now, because Aki suddenly said she hated him and then ran away. He had thought things would go smoothly, just like before. Yoshino said she would take care of it. Masamune asked her to explain what was really wrong, but Yoshino was surprised that even then he still did not understand why he liked Aki. That, she said, was the reason his words had failed to convince her. Masamune could not respond. Yoshino told him to stay calm and promised she would make sure Aki agreed to date him. Masamune then wondered if he should really just sit back and let her handle everything like a sidekick. He felt uneasy because the revenge plan had been his idea in the first place, and in his mind, no proper revenge could be achieved just by waiting for someone else to do the work. His pride refused to accept that. That day, for the first time, Aki skipped school. She went to the amusement park alone, worried that her actions might cause problems later. Suddenly, she heard the voice of a girl calling for her dog, which startled her. Aki was surprised by how irritated she had become over nothing. It was all because of Masamune. He had suddenly grown distant, and on top of that, Aki had seen him meeting with Yoshino. This made her doubt his words about liking everything about her. She was convinced Masamune probably said the same things to every girl. She wondered when exactly Masamune had gotten so close to Yoshino, especially since he had asked her out on a date. Not long after, Yoshino appeared in front of Aki. Aki was surprised that Yoshino had never told her about this. Pretending nothing was wrong, Aki told Yoshino to go back to school first. Yoshino explained that she had met with Masamune the day before. He needed someone to talk to, so they had spoken on the phone and exchanged texts often. Aki said it was none of her business, but Yoshino asked if it had made her sad. Aki denied it, saying there was no way she would be upset because of someone as self-absorbed as Masamune. Yoshino touched her face gently and asked if that was truly how she felt. Aki found it strange that Yoshino, who could be clumsy at times, was always sharp when it came to feelings. Even so, Aki kept denying it. She said she would never be sad over anything involving a boy. She had already decided to believe that all boys were liars. In her eyes, they were selfish, careless, and distant whenever they pleased. That was why she claimed she could never fall for one. She said she would not be upset just because Masamune was secretly meeting with Yoshino, and certainly not to the point of liking him. Meanwhile, Masamune was looking for Aki. Yoshino told Aki not to worry because Masamune only liked her and asked if Aki herself did not feel the same. Hearing that made Aki blush. She denied it, but before she realized it, Yoshino had already disappeared. Confused by how quickly Yoshino left, Aki kept walking aimlessly. She was frustrated with herself for being so unsettled. She admitted she had been this way since childhood. She always hurt others first before they could hurt her. She thought it was better to be disliked and avoided than to go through the pain of being hurt. That was why she had always acted cold and sharp-tongued. She started recalling her moments with Masamune. The memories left her more confused than ever. She wondered if Masamune truly liked her or if he was only joking. Deep down, Aki realized she was beginning to feel something too. When Aki was about to cross the street, Masamune suddenly shouted and told her to stop. Aki, who was a bit lost in thought, had stepped forward even though the pedestrian light was still red. A car almost hit her, but Masamune managed to pull her hand and save her just in time. The car came to a halt and Masamune, breathing heavily, admitted he felt relieved that he had found her. At the same time, he was puzzled about what Aki had been thinking to cross the street so carelessly. Aki replied that it was none of his business, but Masamune insisted that it was because if something happened to her, he would not know what to do. Hearing those words made Aki's face turn red, and she suddenly remembered Yoshino's advice about figuring out her feelings. Masamune then apologized for yelling at her earlier. Just as Aki was about to respond, the girl who had almost hit her with a car walked over. She was beautiful and asked if Aki was alright. Aki immediately pulled her hand away from Masamune and replied that she was fine. The girl looked relieved but then froze the moment she saw Masamune's face. Wearing a rosary around her neck, she seemed shocked and couldn't believe she had run into him there. She quickly stepped forward and hugged him tightly, saying she had been wanting to meet him for so long. Masamune, on the other hand, had no idea who this girl actually was, while Aki stood stunned as she watched another girl holding him right in front of her eyes. A girl who accidentally bumped into Aki did not expect to run into Masamune there. She hugged Masamune tightly, which startled him. Masamune did not know who the girl was, and Aki became very upset seeing another girl hug him right in front of her. Masamune could not understand why the girl hugged him. Her closeness made him blush. The girl quickly let go, realizing she had been impolite to Masamune, and apologized. She believed that fate had brought them together again because they had never lost contact day or night. She held Masamune's hand, which made him even more embarrassed. He felt the smoothness of her hand and tried to open his eyes wide, but he still could not recognize her, having never met her before. The girl knew Masamune's name and asked if he missed her. Masamune was shocked that she knew his name, wondering if it was really possible for an unknown girl to approach him like this. He told her that she might be mistaken. Suddenly, Shido arrived and reminded the girl that it was time to leave. The girl admitted that she was very happy to see Masamune and said goodbye before leaving with Shido. At that moment, Aki, her face full of anger, demanded to know who the girl had been. Masamune said he did not know her at all. Aki looked frustrated and, muttering in irritation, left Masamune behind. Shido reminded the girl that she was a princess of the Fujinomiya family and that she had already made a promise to her master. The next day, Masamune thought to himself that he wished people would act fairly, especially Aki, who had told him to disappear even after he had explained everything. He was confident that he had done nothing wrong and that Aki should have listened to his explanation. During lunch break, Masamune joined the rush to buy bread in the cafeteria. He ordered 5 noodle-filled buns, a pork sandwich, and 5 croquettes. After getting his order, he headed to the sports equipment storage room. He thought that this would be enough to appease Aki, who was probably enjoying her lunch there. Masamune believed that even when Aki was in a bad mood, offering her a selection like this would make her willing to listen. He was sure that everything would be fine once he explained. Suddenly, someone shot him with a gas gun. Surprised, Masamune confronted the person only to find out it was Yoshino. He was confused as to why she was being aggressive. Yoshino explained that she had been ordered by Aki to guard the door and was supposed to drive Masamune away if he appeared. Masamune realized that Aki was still angry with him. Yoshino guessed that Aki's anger would last a while and wondered what Masamune had done to deserve this. Masamune told her that after speaking with her the previous day he had met Aki and explained about the unknown girl. He swore that he did not know the girl at all, not even her name. He hoped Yoshino would believe him, but she shot him again. Yoshino remarked that Masamune was hopeless for interfering despite being told not to. Masamune questioned whether he was really useless. He explained that it was not his intention to cause trouble and was confused that Yoshino still did not understand. Yoshino then left. Determined, Masamune decided to approach Aki in the sports equipment storage room. He took a deep breath and thought about what to say. He considered telling her confidently that she was still number one to him, but feared it might anger her further. Eventually, he placed the bread in front of the storage room door and left. Soon after, Aki came and took the bread inside. That night, Masamune could not sleep, still thinking about the incident. The next day, strong winds blew across the school. Masamune appeared gloomy, especially after his sleepless night. He still could not recall the identity of the girl who had hugged him. His face turned red thinking about her beauty, realizing that she was the type of girl he liked. When the bell rang, he still could not remember if he had ever met her, and his thoughts became even more chaotic, especially with Aki frustrating him and Yoshino acting as she had. At that moment, Tae asked Kojuro what was going on with Masamune. Kojuro admitted she did not know, as Masamune had been acting strangely all morning. That day, the teacher announced that a new student had joined their class. To Masamune's surprise, it was the girl who had hugged him the day before. She introduced herself as Neko. She greeted the classmates, and they all remarked that Neko seemed very elegant. Neko smiled warmly at Masamune, and the teacher invited her to take the empty seat. During the break, Masamune wanted to approach Nako, but her friends crowded around eager to talk to her. They complimented her hair and asked which school she had attended before. Neko had previously studied at Seikyu Academy, a girls-only boarding school located in the mountains shaped like a castle, which had even appeared on TV. Masamune really wanted to talk to Neko, but the next class period had already started. During the following break, he still could not get a chance to speak with her because she was constantly surrounded by other students, who even accompanied her to the restroom. The boys noticed how lively girls could be when they gathered and realized they had been somewhat excluded from the conversation. One of the boys suggested that Kojuro join in with the girls, but she was hesitant. After some encouragement and reassurance that the girls probably would not notice, Kojuro agreed and even had a ribbon placed on her. Seeing this, Masamune decided to step in and take the opportunity to talk to the new student. His friends were moved and cheered him on. Masamune also had many questions for Neko. He asked for permission to join the group, worried that his presence might interrupt their conversation. Taya then revealed something surprising. Neko had intentionally transferred to their school just to meet Masamune. He was shocked by the news. Neko explained that she did not expect him to know because she only felt grateful to him. Her friends became curious and asked her to share more. Neko began her story. 3 years ago, during Christmas, she had been volunteering on the street, encouraging passersby to donate to charity, but no one did. Masamune came up from behind, covered her with his jacket, and gave money for her cause before leaving. Neko chased after him. Masamune reminded her to wear warmer clothes and joked that she looked like she had wings ready to fly away. Neko admitted that in that moment he had seemed like an angel to her. The girls cheered at the sweet story, curious about what this meant for Aki. Taya compared it to a romantic series. Masamune was confused, remembering that he had been a chubby boy from Shinshu just a few years ago. His friends believed Neko's story. Masamune gently took Neko's hand and asked to speak with her privately. The girls screamed in excitement as he led her outside, hurrying along. Neko stumbled and Masamune apologized for not noticing. When he saw what appeared to be blood, he panicked, but Neko reassured him that she was fine and only felt a bit dizzy. Masamune helped her stand, and they realized it was just tomato sauce from earlier, not blood. Neko explained that she liked tomato sauce, humorously calling it refined girl's choice, while Masamune looked slightly frustrated. Trying to change the subject, Neko was asked by Masamune why she had fabricated part of the story when he did not even know her back then. Neko admitted it was a bit embarrassing but suggested it was better if only the two of them knew the full truth. Masamune still did not understand, but Neko said she did not mind if he did not remember her and that regardless of the circumstances, he would always be her ideal. She asked if that troubled him. Neko was undeniably sweet, but Masamune tried to remain composed. He admitted he understood her feelings but revealed that he liked someone else. Hearing this, Neko's eyes filled with tears, and she asked if the girl was attractive to him. Masamune explained that the girl could be rough and a bit self-centered but still found her appealing. Neko asked him to show who the girl was. Masamune led Neko to see Aki, who was instructing Yoshino to buy bread. Masamune thought Neko might back off after seeing Aki, realizing she could be unbeatable, but Neko boldly entered Aki's classroom and apologized for any trouble caused for Masamune. She introduced herself and admitted feeling a little envious knowing Masamune had feelings for Aki. At that point, a sudden gust of wind blew through an open window, causing Neko's skirt to lift. Masamune and Aki quickly reacted to help her and prevent embarrassment. Neko noticed their concerned expressions and quickly adjusted her clothing. Neko smiled and admitted that she was someone who cared about her health, even mentioning that a little tension could be good for the heart. Masamune was puzzled by her attitude, but Neko explained that the key was in the way she walked and stood. She said she felt truly happy, seeing it as a blessing. At that moment, Aki became annoyed and asked them to leave because they had disrupted the atmosphere. Aki quickly walked away, but Masamune wanted to talk to her. Aki ignored him and continued to leave. Masamune chased after her, trying to clarify the misunderstanding. He explained that it was Neko who had mistaken him for someone she knew, while Masamune himself did not know her at all. Masamune was surprised that Aki seemed to trust Neko more than him. Aki wondered what exactly she was supposed to believe from him. Masamune gently held Aki's shoulders and asked her to listen to his explanation. In the process, Aki accidentally bumped into their teacher while trying to free herself from Masamune's grip. As a result, both of them were assigned the punishment of cleaning the school's pool. Aki felt very annoyed and jokingly gave the teacher the nickname Ginger Teacher. From class 3B, Masamune ended up being punished as well because Aki had accidentally bumped into the teacher. Masamune suggested they start cleaning the pool immediately. Aki agreed but reminded him to keep his distance. Hearing this, Masamune became a bit frustrated and playfully sprayed water at Aki with a hose. Aki was startled and scolded him, while Masamune apologized, saying it was unintentional. Aki then removed her jacket, revealing her swimsuit underneath. Masamune noticed that her figure was not as curvy as he had imagined. Aki quickly scolded him for staring. Soon, Aki struggled to carry a bucket of water and asked Masamune to come closer. Masamune wondered what she needed the water for. Aki explained that she planned to pour the water on him as a playful form of payback, following the old saying about an eye for an eye. She insisted that it was unfair for only her to get wet, carrying the bucket toward him. Masamune pleaded with her not to do it, explaining that he was not wearing a swimsuit and did not want to go home soaked. Aki teased him, joking about how he should not be like Neko. Unfortunately, Aki slipped and fell into the pool. She struggled to reach the surface and Masamune panicked, surprised that someone like Aki could not swim well. He jumped in to help her, but Aki's feet touched the bottom of the pool. Aki was puzzled, remembering that Masamune had previously said he did not want to get wet. Masamune admitted that he had no choice. Aki had already anticipated that answer, and Masamune wondered what else he could say, knowing that if he admitted his feelings for her, she probably would not believe him. Masamune sincerely focused on helping Aki and apologized for being too forward. He realized that if Aki had already closed her heart, there was no point in giving long explanations, but he could not understand why he still felt frustrated. Suddenly, Aki challenged Masamune to prove that he truly liked her. Masamune asked how he could do that, and Aki suggested that he show it through his actions, leaving the method to his discretion. That afternoon, Yoshino was waiting for Aki alone, wondering why it was taking her so long to finish her punishment. Suddenly, Neko arrived carrying an umbrella since the weather was extremely hot. She asked Yoshino if she knew where Masamune was. Yoshino was puzzled about why Neko would even ask that, but Neko insisted that Yoshino was the first person she should check with. Yoshino admitted that she had no idea where Masamune could be. At that moment, Aki had asked Masamune to prove his feelings for her by kissing her. Masamune froze at the request. Seeing him so silent, Aki remarked that if he were serious about her, he should be able to do it. Masamune was completely thrown off. In his mind, a kiss was supposed to be the final step in his love-or-nothing strategy. His original plan had been to refuse Aki's kiss at the very end of his revenge mission. marking the completion of his plan. Instead, here he was unexpectedly alone with her, and Aki was asking for a kiss right in the middle of his strategy. Aki assumed that Masamune did not want to go through with it and started to step away. But he stopped her and brought his face closer to hers. He wasn't even fully aware of what he was doing. His heart felt like it was about to jump out of his chest, and he had no idea how to react. In a fleeting thought, he imagined treating Aki like a piece of food he could nibble on. As he leaned in, Aki reacted immediately, hitting him sharply. Masamune was bewildered by her reaction and felt frustrated at Aki for playing the victim. Soon after, Tai and her friends arrived. Tai asked what Masamune and Aki were doing there. Masamune explained that he had been punished by having to clean the pool, but they had been tempted to swim. Tai revealed that she was a member of the swim club and was on her way to practice. Masamune understood why her physique was so fit and admired her dedication. Tai encouraged him before leaving, giving him some motivation to continue cleaning. As Aki was about to leave the pool area, she admitted that Masamune seemed completely infatuated with her and she didn't know what to do about it, so she could only tolerate it. Masamune, witnessing her attitude, felt even more frustrated. He was still confused, realizing he had almost kissed her after she had asked for it. Suddenly, Nico approached, startling Masamune. She explained that she had been looking for him for a while and then sat down next to him. Masamune admitted that he was exhausted and didn't have the energy to walk. Neko offered him a drink, and he was surprised that she had brought hot tea during such a hot season. Nico explained that in the summer, the body should not get cold and that sodium and citric acid were helpful to prevent dehydration. She had mixed green tea with pickled plum for that reason. Masamune found it reasonable and preferred it over a sugary juice that might make him feel sick. Neko added that people often lack vitamins and magnesium in summer, so she had brought yeast and propolis. The propolis had a patented method for better absorption. Masamune looked at her, and she immediately apologized for getting carried away talking to herself. Masamune admitted that he had never been very interested in supplements because he believed the foundation should be exercise and a healthy diet before adding any extra. Nico agreed, and her slightly sour expression made her look even cuter. At that point, Masamune asked Nico what she liked about him. He knew that he was the type of person who could overcome any obstacle, but he couldn't answer Eki's question from before. If Nico answered that it was because of his looks or anything about him, he would immediately reject it, especially since she hadn't known him long enough to understand his character. He was curious about what she would say. Nico told him that he was innocent and naive, to the point that she didn't know why he was attractive. Masamune was surprised by her answer. Nico suggested that he should be more confident because she thought he was very appealing. She left soon after, as Shido had come to pick her up. Masamune realized that she was tougher than he had imagined and admitted to himself that he still needed to improve his courage and directness. Meanwhile, Yoshino was observing Nico from a distance. She considered Nico a potential threat and decided she needed to deal with her quickly. Yoshino followed Nico wherever she went, curious about her plans. Suddenly, Shido appeared and asked Yoshino what her business with Nico was. Yoshino admitted she wasn't sure what he meant. Nico then arrived and explained to Shido that Yoshino was her classmate. She realized that Yoshino worked for Aki, held her hand and smiled warmly at her. Yoshino apologized to Nico, and Nico asked her to stop pretending because she could tell that Yoshino must have been tired even if she tried to hide it. Yoshino then asked why Nico was so concerned about Masamune. Nico admitted that Masamune had once helped her, but Yoshino still found it hard to believe as Masamune had already told her about it. That afternoon, Masamune noted the words Nico had said, thinking that perhaps those were the words he should eventually say to Aki. He also wondered if he might start liking Nico, as she continually impressed him. When Masamune returned home, he was surprised by the noise in the house and immediately went toward the back. Kenyue greeted him as he came in, and he was astonished to find both Yoshino and Nico in his kitchen. He could not understand why they were there. Nico explained that it was her first time making fried shrimp and hoped it would match Masamune's taste. Masamune even wondered if he had accidentally entered the wrong house. Kenyue reassured him that the cooking would be ready soon and suggested he could have a snack while waiting. Realizing it was indeed his home, Masamune quickly took Yoshino to his room upstairs and asked why things had turned out that way. It turned out that earlier, Kenyue had seen Yoshino and Nico talking. From their uniforms, she assumed they were Masamune's friends. Kenyue guessed they might be fans of Masamune wanting to meet him, so she invited them inside to help make the fried shrimp. After hearing this, Masamune apologized to Yoshino for his mother's innocent mistake.